Good morning. I have become a pumpkin. This is a lot more than I usually read. Nope. No thank you. It is spoopy time. Hey guys, my name is Yasmina and welcome back to my channel. So October is coming up for me in the past because when you're watching this, it will be after October, hopefully. And I decided this year for October, in honor of the spoopy season, to read spoopy books. Only scary books during October. I don't know if I'm ready for this, but I'm gonna show you what books I plan to read. I really hope I'm gonna be able to get through all of them because I'm usually not a fast reader. Let me tell you all the books that I plan to read during October. Okay, so the first book is actually a book I've already started but I never got to finish, and that is It by Stephen King. I have this on Audible and I've listened to maybe about 30% or 40%. I just never got around to finishing it. I don't know why, I just kind of left it off and never returned. And so if you don't know what it is about, it's a spoopy scary clown coming to murder everyone, mainly kids, and then kids fighting back. It is a goal of mine to read more Stephen King, so aside from it, I also want to get to The Shining this month. I have two physical Stephen King books that I could have chosen, but to be honest, I chose this one because it is shorter. Next is The Devouring Gray by Christine Lynn Herman. So the reason I picked this up is because it was described as Stranger Things meets YA, and you know, I'm into that. So that sounds perfect for October because I love Stranger Things. And so yeah, I think it's kind of the same vibe, teens fighting a monster in a small town in America. Then I have If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. So this is a book that I want to read because it is very often recommended to people who really like The Secret History by Donna Tartt, and that is one of my all-time favorite books. It's not so much scary as it is atmospheric and thrillery, but there is murder involved and there is like scary things. So if it has that same kind of creepy atmosphere where you don't know, who done it and what's happening, then I think this will work perfectly for October. The next book I chose because I really devoured the first book from this author I read, and it's also short and hopefully fast-paced, so I think I can finish this rather quickly, and that is Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie. It has murder in the title, and so it cannot not fit for this theme. And like I said, I really enjoyed And Then There Were None by her. I read that I think in a day, and so hopefully this will be the same and I can actually get through these books. Alright, and the final book on my Spooky October TBR is a very interesting looking book. This is My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. And this is not because it's a used copy, this is brand new, but it's supposed to look like an old VHS tape. Isn't that cool? I know nothing about this book except that it looks amazing, and again it reminds me of that sort of 80s Stranger Things vibe, and by the looks and sounds of it, I think it's right up my alley. Is their friendship powerful enough to beat the devil? So this is a nice stack of books that I plan on getting to this month, and I'm gonna film snippets of me reading them and what I think about them, and then at the end I'll do a kind of wrap-up of all of the books that I've read in this video. So yes, let the spooky season begin. So I know that fall has come to my house when there's pumpkins on my bookshelf. I have these two guys just chilling here. I couldn't find any better looking ones, but I think these are cute. And they're just chilling on my bookshelf. Along with Normal Will and Upside Down Will talking to himself. Okay, so it's the 1st of November and I started reading Murder on the Orient Express a little bit this morning. You can see I only made it to the first chapter, but now I'm done with work for my day job, so now I made myself a cup of tea and I'll sit down and read as much of this book as I can. And also, I'm already 40% into It by Stephen King because I've started this one months ago and then I never continued. And I'm listening to that on audiobook while I work. When I kind of don't need to think so much and I'm doing things more on autopilot, that's when I think audiobooks work really well when you're working. And I find it very interesting how this writing style is very omniscient and you kind of head jump a lot from character to character on this train. Every time I read this kind of narration style, it always catches me by surprise because I don't expect it. It's not so common anymore, I think. Well, obviously this book was written a long time ago, almost 100 years ago actually. It's an outdated sort of writing style, but it still can be done well. You just need to pay attention because it can get confusing real fast. Something else I noticed, which would not really go these days in terms of writing, in terms of editing, is the use of the adverb very in 3 back-to-back sentences. She sat very upright. Round her neck was a collar of very large pearls, which, improbable though it seemed, were real. A very small, expensive black toque was hideously unbecoming to the yellow toad-like face beneath it. So 3 verys, 2 sentences back-to-back, and then 1, like, a sentence after. It's just something small. I mean, it's something small I noticed because I'm a writer, but it's just something that would not really slide these days. I just finished editing my own book, and so I'm very eagle-eyed on stuff like this. I read a line here that made me chuckle. Hercule addressed himself to the task of keeping his mustaches out of the soup. That difficult task accomplished, he glanced around him whilst waiting for the next course. That part with the mustaches made me chuckle. I do like the writing style if you take away all of the murdering. It's quite self-aware and funny. I dig it. It is currently 10:30 on Saturday, the 3rd, and I finished this last night before I went to bed. It was good, but I think the ending kind of left me a little bit disappointed. So it was good for about 3/3 the way through, and the ending was a little bit disappointing. And now I'm moving on to the Devouring Gray, which is kind of a YA Stranger Things meets Raven Boys. So this should be good. I'm excited. So yes, 1 down, 4 physical books to go, and 1 audiobook left to go. This is a lot more than I usually read. But I think I might be able to do it. We'll see at the end of this, if I make it or not. One thing I do want to mention, if you like Murder on the Orient Express, or if you like mystery in general, I would really recommend, this is not a book, but these exit games. This one is called Dead Man on the Orient Express, which is obviously inspired by this book. Now, I played this with my friends before I read this book, but if you're not aware with these sort of games, they're basically escape room type of games that you can play, you know, as a board game. You basically have to destroy the materials that they provide and figure out how to get out of the room, or figure out the mystery or whatever the secret is. I've played a few of these now, but actually the last one I played is this one, which was obviously inspired by Murder on the Orient Express, and it was very good. But if you're curious, I would definitely recommend trying one with some friends, because they're very challenging at first. If it's the first time you play, it is very challenging, but after you kind of learn the kind of tricks that they pull sometimes, it becomes easier the more you play them. Highly recommend this. It's a lot of fun. I think it would be cool to do it the other way around, like read this book first and then play this game. I've done it the other way around, but that was just because I really like these games. I just wanted to mention that because I thought it was a really cool game. So I'm about halfway through the Devouring Gray, and I love this so far. This is really, really good. It really does remind me of Stranger Things. It has that really creepy vibe, and I think the writing is quite good as well. And it's diverse, so like, honestly, so far all the points. I haven't finished yet, obviously, so I don't know how it will end. But so far, I love this. This might be one of my new favorite books of the year, if it continues this way. Good morning, it is Thursday the 8th of October. If you can see that, probably not. But last night, or well, yesterday evening I should say, I finished The Devouring Gray, and okay, so this is now one of my favorite books that I've read this year for sure. This is awesome. It was so close to hitting that perfect mark for me. I did not give it 5 stars, I gave it like 4.5. I wish it would have expanded a little bit more on a couple of things, on the characterization and a bit of the world building. I just wanted a bit more. It felt a little too clean, a little too pristine and perfectly cut and edited, and I kind of actually wanted a bit more because this was so cool. Okay, this is like a perfect combination of sort of Stranger Things meets Raven Boys, actually. It's about this group of teenagers who have powers that are given to them by this small town where a beast is locked inside of the Grey. So think of the Grey as sort of the upside down in Stranger Things. It's kind of similar to that, and there's a beast that is locked, that is imprisoned in the Grey by the founders of the city, who are these kids' ancestors, and that's why they have these powers, and these powers are passed down to the kids, passed down through generations, and they each have to perform a ritual in order to gain their powers or fail them. This is a duology, so there's another book, and I'll for sure pick that up and read it. Maybe not this year, because I think I already bought way too many books this year and also read a lot. I have enough. But I think I will definitely pick this up next year soon, because yeah, this was awesome. Totally recommend this if you like that sort of creepy, atmospheric, supernatural / fantasy vibe, small town America, creepy vibe, monsters. Yes. This was honestly, this was awesome. I'm so glad I read this. And so next in the creepy books, I will start The Shining. I've not started this yet. I will do so today. I don't know much about this, honestly. I've never seen the movie, so I kind of know what it's about. I know it's about this hotel in this room 217 in this hotel that is supposed to be like, I don't know, haunted maybe, and there's something about a little boy. I'm going into this blind aside from that, and yeah, I'm hoping it's good. Also, speaking of Stephen King, let's talk about it, because I'm about halfway, more than halfway through, and boy is that book messed up. Honestly, I almost cannot stand listening to it. It's just so much. And the fact that all this stuff is like happening to kids, it's too much. It's a bit too much, to be perfectly honest. I'm having a hard time even listening to it. I'm listening to it at like double speed, just because I got used to listening to audiobooks that way, but even then I feel like, oh, I just want this to go faster, because I can't really say I'm enjoying it. Like, I love the concept of it. And like I said with things like this and Stranger Things, I love that idea of, you know, there's a monster in this small town and it's up to these band of kids or teenagers to fight it. And I love that concept, but it just takes it to a whole different level of messed up and abuse, and I'll try to finish it, but I can't really say I'm enjoying it that much. Good morning. I have become a pumpkin. I've taken this Halloween thing very seriously and have transformed into a pumpkin. It is currently Saturday the 17th of October, and I'm a little bit behind on my reading. I am 200 pages in to The Shining, and I was supposed to finish this tomorrow in my sort of schedule. If I'm going to read all of these books this month, I made a kind of schedule. Basically, it's like one book every week, but some have taken me less, some are clearly taking me longer, because I'm not gonna finish this by tomorrow, but hopefully I can finish it maybe in the next few days, because it has picked up. So the reason why I'm a bit behind was honestly, the beginning was kind of slow, and I wasn't really getting into it. I was kind of considering giving up on it, but finally, I feel like it's finally starting to pick up, and I am a lot more interested to see what happens, and so hopefully I can actually finish this in the next few days and then still be able to read 2 more books, because I have 2 more books left and an audiobook. But yeah, so it was slow in the beginning, but now it's starting to get good and creepy, because now they're actually in the hotel by themselves and creepy things are starting to happen. Finally, so I think from now on this is going to get really good. I mean, there was a lot of setup and a lot of characterization, which is great. It was just a bit slow, and I don't particularly like the characters. They're not very likable characters, which I think is the point. Overall, so far, I'm happy that it's finally picking up, and I think by the end of it I will enjoy it, hopefully. Just the beginning was a bit slow. I also marked one thing which I thought was kind of awkward and kind of funny at the same time. So there's a family, right? A mom and a dad and a young boy called Danny, and the dad tells Danny, "That's what I like about you, Doc," Jack said, handing the box back. "Your taste runs to the quiet, the sober, the introspective. You are definitely the child of my loins." And I just thought that was a bit ew. Obviously this was written a long time ago, and you know, maybe that's something that was okay to say back then, but it just kind of Nope. No thank you. So I'm 400 pages into The Shining, and it's definitely gotten better. I like this sort of creepy, atmospheric, more psychological than actual, you know, like jump scare type of horror. So I really am enjoying those parts at least, but I do find myself skipping quite a lot of some of the internal monologue, especially from the father's point of view. Some of it is just kind of a bit much, and I find myself skipping some of it. And also, this is a pet peeve of mine, but Stephen King, like, I think he's a great writer, but at least in this book, and definitely with it, I find that he falls into that category of men writing women not very well. He does the things not great at writing women. It takes me out of the story whenever I read a passage like that, because it's like, oh, really? Apart from that, it's creepy. It's the right amount of creepy for me, at least, because I don't like super horror, super gory things. This kind of falls within that ballpark of not being too gory and not being too descriptive, but being really creepy and atmospheric and psychological more than just, you know, jump scary. Okay, so it is the 22nd of October and I finally finished The Shining. I actually finished it not last night, but the night before. So I kind of took a break of one day in between, but I did finish The Shining and I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars. And some of you might think, oh, how can you give it 3 out of 5 stars? Literally, Goodreads says 3 out of 5 stars means I liked it. I think a lot of people equate giving 3 stars to not liking a book, but in the Goodreads description of their star rating, it literally says 3 means I liked it. 2 is it was okay, and 1 star means I didn't like it. So 3 is actually a good rating, okay guys? Do not come at me. So I did like the overall story. I did have some issues with it, and some of it is pacing issues. I feel like there was a big slog in the middle, so it was actually a bit slow in the beginning, then it ramped up a little bit, then there was kind of a long slog, and then it ramped up again right at the end. And also, I really liked Danny, the boy, the 5-year-old boy, as a character, but I didn't really like his parents very much. I mean, I don't think you're supposed to like them, but in any case, kind of rubbed me the wrong way in that sort of sense. But again, I loved the way this was written in this kind of creepy way where it was just like a long burn of just intensifying creepiness until you find out what happens at the end and the climax at the end. So yes, overall I did really enjoy it. I can see why so many people love this story, and I have not seen the movie. I should probably watch the movie as well. I think I will soon at some point, since the book is still fresh in my mind. I want to see how different the movie is to the book, because some people say it is quite different. So yeah, that's all for now that I can say about The Shining, and the next book is my best friend's Exorcism. So again, I really love the look of this book because it's meant to look like a old sort of battered VHS tape, and it has that sort of 80s horror vibe, and so I'm hoping it lives up to that. But again, I know nothing about it except for what it says on the back. So I have this left and If We Were Villains, and then I have about 15 hours left of it, which again, I'm not enjoying very much, but I'll force myself to listen to it and finish it. Really don't like it so far, so that's not looking good for me, at least. So I'm trying to finish this book. I only have about maybe 70 or 80 pages left, and then I'm done with it, but I can already say that this is awesome. Like, I'm not sure if I'll give it 5 stars, I'll see after the ending, but definitely 4 stars. This was awesome. This is like, you know, like, I think it says on the back, like a summer horror flick, and I think it lives up to that perfectly. It's very eerie and creepy, and just like, you know, like those American horror movies from the 80s and 90s, it lives up to that perfectly. Okay, so it is the same day, it is 27th of October, and I finished my best friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix, and I gave this kind of like a 4.5 out of 5 stars. This was awesome. This honestly was so weirdly nostalgic for the 80s, for the late 80s, even though I am a 90s kid. I was not born during that era, but this was very nostalgic. I don't know how else to explain it. It is really a story about friendship, the kind that can last forever, an entire life, and the story of these two best friends. And well, as the title suggests, one of them gets possessed and the other one is trying to save her. But that's the kind of basic plot. It really goes deep into the friendship and the relationship between these two girls, and just all of the cultural references are really cool. Like, all of the titles of the chapters are actual song titles from the 80s, and obviously there's a lot of sort of pop culture references from that era, and that was really fun to read. And the friendship between these two girls was very sweet. I don't want to go into too many spoilers, but I love this, totally recommend this, and of course, especially for this time of the year, it's awesome. But you can read it any time of the year when you want a fun sort of horror flick. This is it. Good morning. One thing I forgot to mention about the previous book, My Best Friend's Exorcism, is it does have one scene of animal abuse, which I really did not like. So just as a trigger warning in case you want to read it and that bothers you, there is a scene like that in the book. Just forgot to mention it and I thought it was very jarring, so just wanted to mention it. I have to read the next book, which is If We Were Villains by ML Rio, and I have 3 days left in October, and I'm only like 30 pages in right now, so I'm hoping I can finish this in these 3 days, but we'll see. So far I don't really have much thoughts because I literally just started it and it's a bit slow, but from what I can tell about the plot, like I said, it's supposed to be similar to The Secret History, and these are a group of Shakespeare theater students. Yeah, it seems to have a similar vibe to The Secret History, and I assume one of them gets murdered and then the rest have to figure out what's up. So I'm hoping this is good, but more than anything, I'm hoping I can actually finish it in the next 3 days. And then, of course, I still have It. Still have about 15 hours of that. I have not wanted to continue listening to that, so we'll see. We'll see if I finish that at all, or if I just DNF it and just be done with it, because it's just not. It's not for me. It's not for me. Good morning. It is 31st of October. It is Halloween Day, although we don't really celebrate Halloween here in Denmark, to be honest, so there's nothing special like that planned. I'm currently watching the League of Legends Championship Finals and trying to finish this book. I'm at about page 260, so I'm hoping I can finish this today or at the very latest tomorrow. So even if it's like, you know, 1 day after October, it's like, whatever. However, I don't think I'm gonna finish it because I still have about 13 hours of that, and yeah, I'm not gonna finish that this month. I just don't like it, to be honest. I think I'll probably finish it just because it's such a long book and I've already spent so much time listening to it that I'll probably finish it just because, but I don't think I'll change my mind whether I like it or not. But so far, If We Were Villains is okay. I can definitely see why it's compared to The Secret History, although in my opinion so far it's not quite as good. I'll wait until the end to see if it gets better, but I can definitely see where the comparison comes from. Okay, so it is the 1st of November and I finished If We Were Villains this morning, so a little bit over schedule, but you know what? That's fine. I'm not too mad about it in any case. So I like this. I gave it 3 stars. It definitely wasn't as good as The Secret History, but like I said, I can definitely see how the comparison came about. So basically it's about this close-knit group of Shakespeare college students. They're theater students and they focus on Shakespeare plays, and they do like one of Shakespeare's plays every semester or for every lesson. And it's not a spoiler, but it's in the description of the book. One of them dies mysteriously and the rest of them are kind of trying not to blame themselves and not to let anyone else blame them. I'm not gonna give too much more away than that, but it's very pretentious. Like, these characters are super pretentious and they talk to each other in Shakespeare quotes, which kind of went over my head because I never really studied Shakespeare. I mean, in school, I'm Romanian, so we did Romanian sort of literature, and in English class we didn't do stuff like this. We just try to learn English, right? So I don't have a lot of knowledge on Shakespeare, and to be honest, I skipped a lot of their Shakespeare quoted conversations because I just couldn't relate, and yeah, to be honest, it was a lot of that. Like, I think a third of this book is just Shakespeare quotes. And if you're into that, you will love this a lot more than I did, because it's very Shakespearean, and to be fair, I liked the way it wrapped up. It did wrap up in a very Shakespeare-like way, I'll just say that. So I did enjoy it, just because of the fact that there was so much Shakespeare in it, so much Shakespeare lyrics, and they were talking to each other in the Shakespeare quotes, which I just found super pretentious and super, I don't know, just not for me personally. So that's why I gave it 3 stars. My battery died, but here we are again. So just to recap, these are all of the books that I read in October of 2020. I read 5 books in total, and as I mentioned, I have not finished it. I still have about 13 hours of that, and I will finish that at some point, but it's just not, I'm just not enjoying it. In terms of these books, one of them just fell. Let's see, in terms of these books, I think my favorite were definitely these two, The Devouring Gray and my best friend's Exorcism. These are the ones I read the quickest, that I enjoyed the most, that I just were really up my alley, and just the sort of thing that I love in this kind of creepy genre, creepy horror genre. Not too horror, but enjoyable, and yeah, Stranger Things-esque. Actually very Stranger Things-esque as well. I think I definitely have a type when it comes to sort of supernatural creepy books. And then in order, then I also enjoyed If We Were Villains, and then Murder on the Orient Express, and then The Shining. So out of these 5 books, I guess I enjoyed The Shining the least, to be honest. But these two are kind of similar in that way, that they were a little bit missed for me, but I also at the same time enjoyed them. So yeah. But honestly, I'm really happy with the 5 books that I've read this month. This is more than I usually read, and so just the fact that I actually managed to get through these in 1 month is like, you know, I'm proud of myself for that, even though it took me 1 extra day. Regardless, I'm very proud of the amount of books that I managed to read this month, and of course I would actually recommend all of these to you, because none of them I disliked, except for It. Okay. Maybe I wouldn't recommend It. From these 5, I would recommend all of them, but like I said, I would more highly recommend My Best Friend's Exorcism, The Devouring Gray, and If We Were Villains. And they were definitely adequate books to read during the month of October, and I would highly recommend you do so if you plan on reading them. Maybe wait until next year and read these. Otherwise, of course, you can read them at any time of the year, but I think it adds a little bit of extra atmosphere if you read them during the spooky season. So that actually wraps up this video and reading vlog. Thank you so much for watching. Do let me know if you've read any of the books that I read in this video and what you thought of them, or if any of them sound interesting to you and you might pick them up. Do let me know that as well. Otherwise, I hope you had a great October, and I hope you have a great November and December, and moving forward, whatever month it is that you're watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!